Welcome back to the circuit revival.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
Okay.
Okay, so today we are looking at a Yamaha keyboard, full scale, 88 keys, weighted keys. It's got no power, so we'll try and see if we can fix this. A few changes there. I have a helper because this thing is massive, and I don't think I'll be able to get it on my own, so we'll do some teaching for you.
Nice.
We'll start with the power supply. So if you do me a favour and plug it in, you have an extension lead next to you. And we'll get the end of the barrel jack. If you take a look at the power supply itself, it should have an image on it somewhere that sort of looks like, probably on the other side, tells you which way the polarity is. So you can see center pin negative, is that? No, center pin positive. So you see a plus goes into it.
That bit.
So if you get the multimeter for me.
Do you want that there?
That's fine, okay. Yeah.
Is this the beep beep machine?
It is the beep beep machine.
Okay.
And you're going to put it into voltage DC, which is the first one. And then you're going to test the voltage coming out of the power supply for me.
Was it with both?
Yes. So it's center pin positive, so you're going to stick the positive one inside and you're going to touch the outside with the other one. So red one in the middle.
Oh, okay. I was like, which one's the positive one?
And then touch the outside. And then you're getting, just hold it on, 13.23 volts. So the power supply is fine. It's a 12 volt power supply, so that's about right. So we know it's not the power supply, it's probably something inside. But we'll just prove the problem in that it's not turning on by plugging this in and try and turn it on, and we get nothing.
No noise.
So we know the power supply is fine, and we know that the thing is not powering on. So if you want to take that off the top of the keyboard, and we're going to rotate this and flip it over so we can get behind it.
Okay.
And then it looks like we have about 1,001 screws to undo. Okay.
Oh, something's happening.
Okay, watch out, just getting things connected. Okay, we do have some connections. We'll just undo that. Okay, first port of call is just to take a look around and see if you see anything that particularly looks wrong.
Are we looking for like explodey bits?
Yeah, basically. Try and see if there's anything that looks
Melty.
wrong.
There's a lot of like board on top of board action.
This is probably the power supply board itself. So I can see a fuse on there, which is probably the best thing to check to begin with. So if you get the meter again.
Yeah, let's do which one?
And then we go into continuity, which is this one that's a bit like a sound symbol.
Oh, the Omega sign.
No.
No?
The Omega sign, that's ohms, but could also involve that fuse, which is that glass looking thing just in here.
I know what a fuse is. So this one.
Yep. Try and get on the legs itself.
Oh, the little wiry bits.
Yeah. Okay, so the fuse is good. So it's not the fuse. Because obviously usually the fuse will be the first thing that goes and then we have a problem.
Is that white stuff at the bottom of the capacitor not leaky stuff? Or is it glue?
It's hard to say. I would say it's probably glue because you can also see
there's
it
stuff
on
under the other bits.
the other bits. Normally capacitors would have a bulged top if they were not okay. But we might need to just get that board out really. But we might be able to plug in and check for voltages around the board itself. Let's just lift this up slightly so we can see. I think this is possibly the power board for the actual power on switch. Is that the case?
Oh, I think the key. Oh no, the keys are
So that is
not coming out.
okay. So that is the power itself. So this is the actual switch.
Okay.
So we can possibly look to see whether we're actually getting anything off of that. So the switch is here. Okay, it's on currently. If you probe on the back of the switch here, and hopefully it will beep. You'll see this sort of...
Oh, the two sticky out bits.
Yeah. Okay, so the switch itself works as well.
Cool.
What maybe doesn't look quite okay is this here, which is possibly a voltage regulator. The top looks like it's broken off. which could be intentionally, could not be. So I think the next step is try and get this board out and take a closer look at that.
Oh, that looks nice. Very positive.
Okay, that's less worrying then. So the way that these work is they sort of just pin in. This looks like a clamp.
Oh, so the good news is that we unscrewed all of this bottom section.
Okay, well this immediately strikes me. So this here has 4 wires, but one of those wires was bent and not inside.
Oh, that'll do it. And where's that wire from?
The power switch. That is confusing. In that it might have been intentional because
There's only 3 holes.
there's only 3 holes.
Oh. Good.
So I wonder whether that was bent over because it goes in with
another one.
the other one. Yeah, let's just try reseat these then, see if we get anything different. You got the... Oh. Okay. Okay, so after looking around way more than was needed and probably trying to find something that didn't quite exist, Caitlin pointed out around the cables we saw at the very beginning and how they were kind of wrong, that there was 4 in, a 3 and a 3 and a 4. And after sort of following voltages around the board, I found that the pitch bend was basically allowing voltage through, and if the pitch bend was twisted, it turned on. So Caitlin suggested, quite obviously, maybe they were just plugged in wrong. So we've undone them, flipped them around, and if you want to try and just flip this back end over the top for me. Okay, so after swapping those cables around, we have power and sound.
Does that mean I am now a key part of the circuit revival?
Yeah.
Excellent.
Clearly can't do it without you.
And what is the lesson for today?
Sometimes it is the simple things. Or so I thought. So it turns out the rewiring was just a red herring. So it turns out the real problem is that when it turns on, it doesn't always turn on. It will sort of boot up to a blue screen and not boot into what the OS is. So there's a few things that I think it could be. One could be, I think it could be the RAM not loading properly. Or alternatively, I think it could also be this capacitor here. Because when testing on the multimeter, I get a short to ground on both sides of the legs. And it doesn't go away. Whereas normally when I've had capacitors, I've put the leads on it, it's shown as a short and then rises as the capacitor starts to charge. But it's not doing on that. So I've got a replacement here for it. And I'm just going to try swap it out and see if that makes any difference. So here we have the new capacitor in place there. So I'm going to try turn it on and see if we get that blue screen. So we'll try turn it on. Hopefully this should go past the blue screen into a operating system. No. So it wasn't the main power capacitor there. So I have a feeling it might be the RAM then. So I pulled out the board from the keyboard here, and I'm going to just try and give sort of like a bit of a visual look over it and see if I can work out what's up with it. So obviously it's not always booting in now. I saw a post online that showed that someone managed to fix it by replacing the RAM on one of these boards, which I think is this chip here. So I've got some replacements of those, so I'm going to try that, but
to start off with, we'll just have a look around the board. So I'll pull the scope around and we'll see if we can see anything that doesn't quite look right. The fact it's intermittent is what is going to make it difficult, because it's not that it doesn't work or it does work. It's just sort of when it starts, the first couple of times it works fine, but then after that it doesn't. But to start off with, this is that chip that looks like is the flash memory. So I'm wondering whether this might be part of the problem. If this is sort of going down, maybe it can't boot into the OS properly. But we'll have a look at sort of all the solder points and stuff to begin with and see if there's anything that sort of stands out. Maybe there's a sort of like a cold solder point on one of them and one of the points has come off. I know the old Game Boys, some of the cartridges for that had the issue where the end pin ended up sort of coming loose after time, and that's what sort of stopped that. So we'll just have a little look around, just make sure all of these are attached on solidly, because it could be that there's a small micro fracture on one of the legs, and then as it gets a bit warm, that gap gets bigger and then can no longer make a connection. I will say these all look absolutely fine. Cool, so they're all good. And then let's have a look at the balls on the main sort of brains of this. Because if these look like maybe they were sort of weak, then it could be that potentially as it gets warm, again, creates a slight gap, and that's what stops the connection. But if I'm being honest, they do actually, at least from the outside, look all perfect. It doesn't look like there's anything wrong under there. Now, it's hard to say because obviously there's hundreds, if not thousands of balls under there. So can't be certain just by looking at the edge ones, but they might be able to give a rough idea as to if they didn't look great, then maybe the rest under there weren't. But we'll just continue to look around then, see if there's anything that sort of stands out. Doesn't look right, and then we can sort of follow that. So those pins all look good in there. So overall, I can't see anything that stands out on this side of the board. Have a look on the other side. So nothing sort of stands out on there in all fairness. So I guess we could probably start just by checking around all of the capacitors and just see whether there's anything sort of stand out on there. Now, I don't think there will be, but it's worth a go. So I've looked all around the board and ultimately I can't see anything that sort of looks wrong. So I don't see any reason not to, even just for practice, try swapping out this sort of flash memory here. So I've got some replacements, and hopefully this is what's stopping it from booting properly. Now, I have no real sort of like method to this other than I did some research online, see whether anyone else had sort of had the same issue with this keyboard as this. And the only post I could find was sort of a Facebook post that said that they'd replaced the flash memory to stop the blue screen. But the difference is that was for a slightly different model of the keyboard. So it was still the same one, but I think it was sort of like the version up. So here is the replacement. You can see sort of identical. So we'll try swap it out, see if we have any luck with it. So I will start by adding leaded solder to all of this, and I think that'll help us lift it up. So we'll just put some flux down the sides. The thing we need to watch out for is there is a bunch of capacitors around this, so we don't want to heat those up too much because they can end up going bang. Okay, so I'll just get some leaded solder on my iron and we'll just run it along the pins. This will hopefully lower the melting temperature so it comes up a bit easier. So there's a few bridges and stuff on here, but that doesn't really matter because we're going to lift this off anyway. That's that side. We'll flip it around. Do the same on the other side there. We need to make sure if and when we power this back up, we do make sure there are no bridges, but for now, we just need to get probably underneath one of these legs. I think the best way to lift this up is probably wait till it's done and try and just lift it up from the middle. So we'll get our hot air. It was fairly painless getting that off, which was quite good. So I think what I'm going to try and do is wick up all of the solder that's on the pads, and I think I'm just going to try and use the soldering iron to get the new one on. So I've just got some solder wick here, and we'll just try wick away all of the solder on the pads. Okay, so they look pretty good. So we'll get the new one and we'll line that up. And what I'm going to try and do is just tack the four corners in place to begin with. And then hopefully that'll hold it in place. And then I can come round and solder the rest of the pins. Possibly just a little bit too low. We might be alright with that. That's the two sides there. Let's try and get the two corners on this side. That's one. And the top one. If this goes, then we should be all good. So I think we'll be alright with that. Like I said, it's probably a little bit wonky, not quite straight, but I think everything is close enough to reach. So we'll then come in with some more flux. Just get some more. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to swap tips again. So I'll just wait for my iron to cool down and I'll swap to the smaller tip. Then that should hopefully prevent the chance of getting bridges all over the place as I do this. So let me just wait for that to cool down. So here's the smaller tip. It still looks absolutely ginormous compared to the pins, but it should hopefully stop. I would say it would stop the bridges as much, but it seems like bridges were going to happen regardless there. So need to make sure I clear the bridges off those top view. We'll just try and work our way down. Bridges. Bridge there. Okay, that's all on. At the very least, this was good practice. So we'll try and remove those bridges. But I'm just going to clean it up to begin with so we can see exactly where they are. So I know that I think there's one on each side. I need to double check where those top two are bridged as well. But there's definitely a bridge in the middle here. So we'll try and get this out. So I do this, I'm just going to make sure there's sort of like no solder on my iron, and I'm going to come in and try and just pull it out. Might need to go back to the bigger tip for this. Okay, let's get in there. It looks like it's gone. We'll get rid of the one on the other side, which is... I've lost it now. That's at the top there, isn't it? Yeah, okay. So we'll get a bit of flux at the top here. And we'll do exactly the same again. Okay, looks like it's gone. Give this a good clean, and then we'll get the meter out and we'll use the multimeter just to make sure everything is clear and there are no more bridges. Because sometimes the reflection of the light make it hard to see bits. Okay, let's work our way through all of these then to make sure none of them are still connected. Okay, nothing. Okay, on that side, let's do this side. The other side is quite good already. Excellent, so there are no bridges in there, which is good. So replacement flash chip on there and all looks good. So we'll get this back in the keyboard and see whether that's made any difference. If not, we certainly had some good practice with some slightly bigger chips there. And then I know that that one's good. So I'll run this downstairs, get this back in the keyboard and see what it does. So I've just changed out the flash chip on the board here. And we're going to try and see whether it's made any difference. So we'll get this in place. We're going to plug our power in. Okay, so we'll try to plug the power in without knocking it out. So power's in, and what we want to see is it boot into the OS. Okay, so it booted the first time. And then we'll turn it off, and hopefully we do again. Okay, that's 2 for 2. Can we make it 3? Okay, this looks like it's fixed. And we'll try once more. Yes! Okay, so I'm going to say this is done, because every other time it would work for the first few times but then stop. But now, every time it's booting in. So we'll get this back together and we'll class this as a fix.
Moment of truth. Ooh! Yay!
Amazing. And another fix.
Oh, beautiful playing. I can't do anymore.
Excellent.
That was going on too long.
We'll see you in the next one.
Thank you.